Hi, this is Shinobi Bench. Today I'll be talking about how to choose the right accessory exercises to get stronger at the bench press. We'll go over how to choose accessory movements based on your bench press form and how you tend to fail your reps. In this video, I'll cover the following points. Do you really need accessory work? When do you actually need accessory exercises? 3 accessory exercises I recommend to almost everyone. How your bench press form affects which accessories you should use. How your sticking point or failure point affects accessory selection. When you're looking up information online about which accessory exercises to do for bench press, have you ever thought something like this? Person A recommends shoulder work, but person B says it's unnecessary. Some say you need back accessories, others say it's pointless. Some say accessory work is crucial, others say you shouldn't bother. Why do people say such different things? Today I want to dig into this issue and help you figure out what kind of accessory work you actually need. This channel is all about helping you get stronger at the bench press. If you find this video helpful or just want to support the channel, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. Alright, let's get into the main topic. Are you currently doing any accessory work? And if so, how are you choosing what to do? Some people just try everything randomly to see what works, and that's not necessarily a bad approach. But without some kind of system, you'll likely waste a lot of time. I personally took the trial and error route, and it took me a while to figure out what works. Through that process though, I began noticing patterns, like this accessory helps when your form looks like this, or this one helps when you fail like that. So today I want to share those insights with you. First, let's start with a basic question. Do you actually need accessory exercises to get stronger at the bench press? Before we even talk about specific exercises, we need to clarify what accessory really means. In the dictionary, accessory is defined as something that helps make up for what's lacking. That means accessory exercises are movements that fill in the gaps, helping you address your weak points in the bench press. That may sound obvious, but it's an important distinction. Here's why. Some people are doing accessory work even when they haven't fully maximized their main lift, bench press itself. I'm guilty of this too. What you should be prioritizing is the bench press itself. If your technique still needs work, or if there's more muscle you can develop from just benching, you probably don't need accessories yet. Accessory exercises should never take the place of your main work. Also, there are times when accessory work makes sense, and times when it doesn't. If your form is improving or your weights are going up thanks to increased mobility or strength, then just focus on the bench. But if your numbers have plateaued for a while, or if you're always failing reps in the same exact way, then it may be time to introduce some accessories. The most important thing is to avoid adding or omitting accessory exercises without a clear purpose. Let's move on to some concrete suggestions. Here are 3 accessory exercises I recommend to almost everyone. If you need accessory work, you can't go wrong with these. First, feet up bench press. Some might argue this isn't even an accessory, but I include it in my training for about 3 months every year, and I highly recommend it. By lifting your feet, you create instability, which helps you develop control and balance for when you return to normal bench pressing. It also flattens your arch, increasing range of motion and strengthening the bottom portion of the lift. And without worrying about leg drive, you can focus entirely on your upper body mechanics. There probably aren't many bench pressers out there who find no value in feet up bench press. If you've hit a wall with your regular bench, give this a try. Second, dumbbell bench press. This is another variation that technically still counts as bench press, just with dumbbells. Because you're pressing each arm independently, you'll have to stabilize more, which helps with overall control and balance. You also get a deeper stretch at the bottom, so it's great for developing bottom end strength. The downside? Setting up gets harder as the weight increases. Personally, once I'm working with 40-kilogram dumbbells, I get more fatigued from the setup than the actual reps. Still, if you don't have much time or gym access and can't spend as much time under a barbell, dumbbells are a fantastic substitute. Third, push-ups. This is one of the most underrated accessories in my opinion. It's simple, effective, and you can do it anywhere. Some people say bodyweight training is too easy to be effective, but that's not entirely true. You could bench heavy for low to moderate reps at the gym and then do ultra high rep push-ups at home. That way, you're training strength, hypertrophy, and muscular endurance. As I mentioned in a previous video, muscular endurance is an overlooked factor in bench progress, and push-ups are perfect for training it without needing a gym. They're especially useful if you're short on time or space because they let you train without equipment. Let's now look at how your bench press form affects which accessories to choose. You'll often see debates online like, should you train shoulders or not? Some say yes, others say no. Why does this kind of disagreement happen? I used to find it really confusing, but I think I've finally figured out why, and I'd like to share my take. Disclaimer: from this point on, I'll be sharing more of my personal opinion, not data-driven conclusions. Let's divide bench press form into two broad types. The bar touches slightly above the vertical midline of the body, toward the head. The bar touches slightly below the midline, toward the belly. This touch point is also known as the power point, where you're strongest at the bottom. For reference, I'm a type 2 lifter. I touch low. Of course, form isn't always this black and white, but I think these two categories help clarify things. If your bar path is exactly in the middle, you might be somewhere in between, or not well suited to either strategy. In that case, maybe no specific accessory work is needed. Let's start with those who touch high, above the midline. This was my form in the past, so I'm basing this on that experience, plus analyzing others and talking with bench pressers. When the bar touches high, the elbows tend to flare more, and the movement feels a bit like a decline press. The shoulder joint performs mainly horizontal adduction and adduction. Now here's the key point. I don't have any specific accessory recommendations for this form. Yes, none. Aside from the three general ones I already mentioned, I think people with this form can simply focus on bench pressing. There aren't many exercises that effectively target horizontal adduction and adduction better than the bench itself. If you need top-end strength, dips may be useful, but beyond that, I'd say just bench more. Also, many lifters with this form report that shoulder exercises don't help much, or even make things worse. That makes sense, because this form doesn't heavily involve shoulder flexion. Even if you strengthen the shoulders with overhead pressing, it won't necessarily carry over. Now let's move on to lifters who touch low on the chest. This form tends to involve more shoulder flexion along with horizontal adduction. This is where overhead pressing becomes valuable, especially exercises like the overhead press or military press. These strengthen the front and side delts, both of which are involved in shoulder flexion. You might be wondering, why not incline bench press instead? Incline bench does train shoulder flexion, but it also hits the upper pecs hard. So if you already feel your upper chest gets plenty of stimulation from regular benching, then it might be smarter to focus on shoulder strength without overlapping too much. However, if your upper chest is lacking, incline press can be a good choice. Again, the point of accessory work is to fill in what's missing. So if your shoulder flexion is weak, directly targeting that is more efficient and easier to measure. Let's now talk about sticking points, how you fail your reps, and how they guide accessory selection. Here are 3 common failure points in the bench press. The bar doesn't move at all from the bottom, completely stuck. The bar moves 2 centimeters and stalls. The bar moves 10 centimeters but can't be locked out. Let's take a closer look at each one. First, bar doesn't move at all from the bottom. This is probably the worst type of failure, and it's not necessarily due to weak pecs. It often means your body is collapsing under the load. In other words, your bracing and stability muscles are failing, your back, core, and legs. Think of the muscles that help maintain your arch. To strengthen these, I recommend squats, deadlifts, pull-ups. These compound lifts build your entire posterior chain, core, and lower body. Pull-ups in particular are great for training scapular control, something you definitely need in benching. Plus, you'll need strong lats to control the bar on the way down. As a benchmark, I'd say being able to do 10 bodyweight pull-ups is a solid goal. Squats and deads aren't about isolating a specific muscle, they just make your whole body stronger. For me personally, I aim for squat 1.5 times body weight, deadlift 1.75 times body weight. My max squat is currently 160 kilograms. That said, if you're failing like this, it's often because your bar path is off, you're lowering the bar to the wrong spot, so you can't use your full strength. So honestly, your best accessory here might be form practice. Second, bar moves 2 centimeters and stalls. This is a classic weak bottom situation, often due to underdeveloped pecs. Good accessory options here include feet up bench press, dumbbell bench press. If your bar path is low, like mine, add overhead press to strengthen shoulder flexion. If you touch high, just stick to the first 2. Why not more variety? because there aren't many exercises that target horizontal adduction and adduction better than those two. Feet up bench increases range of motion and reduces leg drive, great for bottom end work. Dumbbells let you lower deeper than a barbell, also great for the bottom range. Third, bar moves 10 centimeters but stalls, can't lock it out. This is a top end failure. To address this, you need to strengthen triceps, pecs in the contracted position. Triceps are an obvious one, everyone knows the top is triceps. But what about pecs? I used to think my top end failures were all triceps. Back when I was pressing around 130 kilograms, I couldn't lock out, so I hammered my triceps. I did close grip bench press, narrow bench, but my numbers didn't improve. That made me wonder if my triceps were really the issue. So I started analyzing my top end mechanics and realized that even at the lockout, the pecs still have to contract, especially with the scapulae retracted. So to strengthen pecs in that contracted state, I found dips to be very effective. They allow you to drive through the lockout using both triceps and pecs. Some people argue about whether to open or tuck the chest in dips, but I think as long as you feel the contraction, either approach works. Now, let's briefly talk about tricep training in general. Honestly, anything works: press downs, French press, skull crushers, etc. Just avoid exercises that irritate your elbows. I couldn't do most tricep exercises for a while due to elbow pain, but now I do high rep skull crushers, 20 reps or more. That seems to work without pain. If your elbows hurt, try using lighter weights and higher reps. I use these accessories only when I feel a weakness. I don't follow a fixed rotation. The most important thing to remember is the best way to get stronger at bench press is to bench press. Sometimes I fall into the trap of spending more time on accessories than the main lift, and it backfires. So don't forget, accessories are just that, support. But above all else, the most important thing is to enjoy your training. That's the fastest path to progress. So whether you choose to do accessories or not, just pick the path that keeps things fun for you. If you found this video helpful or feel like supporting the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribed. Let's keep working hard on the bench press. See you next time.